Good morning, you guys. Happy Tuesday. Cannot remember what day of week it is. I am so excited to be doing this live with you guys, and I hope I'll get some audience participation. I know I rarely go live on Tuesdays, so we'll see how this goes and see who comes and joins in. I know as some of you guys have been messaging me about this question and like asking how I'm doing it this time around, because this is the second baby, and seeing has anything changed from how I prepared for my maternity leave the first time around. Hey Naoko, thank you so much for joining. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. Make sure you say hello, wave, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask. I think like you could put it in the questions in the little question box. Like you just go in there, and I will definitely do my very, very best to help answer those questions. And also, yeah, like it's pretty open here. Like we do our best to be able to respond to, you know, things like these, and that's why we're even doing this live to begin with. And I also just wanted to kind of preface it with the fact that, you know, like everybody's pregnancy is going to be different. Everybody's, oh, thanks, Jen. Everybody's like family situation is different. Oh, thank you so much. I love my dress. I feel extra pretty wearing this dress. That's why I wore it for this one. I know I did it for like the preview for this one, and then I was like, oh, okay, we'll do it as well. And I did it for maternity shoot as well. I never thought I would rock a dress like this because it feels so feminine. But maybe because I'm having a girl, so extra feminine hormones happening right now. Okay, so let's get started. So how am I preparing for maternity leave this second time around as a business owner? So maybe I'll just like want to go back, one step back, and like kind of give you guys a little bit of a story of what happened last time. So last time when I went on maternity leave, it was in 2018, and I at that point in time, my business model was very different. Like my business model was primarily wedding invitations. And then I also had a shop, but the shop wasn't like as prolific as it is right now, because at that point in time I only had the wax seals in the shop and practice pads. That was like two key products I had in there. So it's a very different approach. So the income streams were different as well, because I had like in-person workshops, I had the wedding invitations, and then I had the shop. But the shop, like I said, was like a small speck in there. It wasn't like a key part of like my business revenue. And then so at that point in time when I planned to go on maternity leave, it was a very different approach, because it was more like me saving up the money so that I could take a break. I also had no idea how long that break was going to look like, because I'd never had a baby before. And personally for myself, if you ask me, I'm not a big baby person. In the sense that I wasn't the type that always like looked at other people's babies, wanted to hold them or anything. I had like pretty zero knowledge of what it actually meant to have a kid. And a lot of that now I know. Now I know, and now I understand, and now like I am so much more humbled by the reality of parenthood. Because it's just so much more work than you'd ever imagine in your life. Because I think like that's one thing that, you know, people probably fail to really realize, is that the moment you choose to be a parent, like you're a parent forever. Like you don't just like take on this little project and then that's it, you know, like that it's like done after a few months, and then that you don't have to do anything about it. No, like every season, there's more to it, and there's different challenges to it, and that it's not going to be the same. Like the moment you think you've got it, like, you know, you're happy in this spot, the kids change, and then there's different things, and like in comparison to you know, navigating your own life, or for example, for myself as a business owner, I can plan so much of my life, but when you have a kid, like, it just doesn't work that way. And I guess it's different too, because I live in North America, where like getting household help, like nannies and things like that, are definitely a luxury to have. It's not for everybody, or like not everybody can afford it, type of thing. But the good thing is, at least in Canada here, it's expected that people take a leave, right? Like in Asia, where I grew up, in the Philippines, you know, people don't often get a lot of maternity leave. You're lucky to get a month or two off, but then they're expecting you to have other help, like a nanny or somebody else, to be able to take care of your kid for you. And even I think in the States, like the maternity leave in the States is depending on the company that you are in, it's just different. And so, oh, hi, Fair. Thanks for joining. We're so lucky. Fair is also one of our, like, the companies that we work with to get our wholesale accounts. And that's also part of, you know, what helps us keep going as a business. And then, of course, we've got... but in Canada, though, we normally do get a maternity leave, but because I'm self-employed, I don't get a maternity leave because I don't pay into the EI. So essentially, at that time when I was doing it, I basically saved up money so that I could pay myself for a good 6 months. So that was what my plan was. But what I didn't expect, though, after having my son, like that rude awakening of having children, was the fact that that I would suddenly be overwhelmed with so much emotion, and struggle mentally, and have postpartum anxiety. I didn't expect to have all these like mental challenges. You know, I thought, you know, okay, we're just going to power through, just like what we do everything with our lives these days. We're going to do our best, right? Like, but I didn't expect to have that completely like out of sorts kind of feeling. Hey Jess, thanks for joining. I just didn't expect to be so helpless, like mentally. And that was one thing that and aside from that too, prior to that, I mean, right before I had my baby, I also experienced a lot of swelling in my joints. And so I remember like writing, like it was really difficult for me to be writing in calligraphy during that time. So like after that entire experience, I just realized like how much like the decision to have children while you run your own small business is so like, I mean, whether or not you're going in a small business or not, it just means that there's a lot of like giving to be made. Hey, Lisa, like you just have to expect the unexpected, or like just realize that things could just absolutely not go the way you had imagined it to be. I'm very grateful that for both of my pregnancies so far, that I have come to term to this much. I've had 2 miscarriages. That I'm not like sick or anything, that during the time I'm pregnant, I'm able to work. And in fact, sometimes I'm even more productive because I'm driving. I'm just like hustling because I have to make sure I'm okay for the next 6 months. But it's just different. Like, you know, it's just knowing that, you know, the moment you get pregnant, you could be feeling sick for the entire time. You just don't know. And so like that you need to calculate that into that possibility, that decision that you make, and the possible results of it. But if there's anything that you can hold on to, is the fact that the work will wait for you, and that it's okay to take this season of your life, and take a pause to be able to, so that you can be fully present in it. Because it's just really difficult to be taking on another life form. I mean, and then another job completely, and then, and yet still have all the pressures of running your business or doing other things. And so knowing that this season is a time to pause, not rest, by the way. People seem to think that when we go on maternity leave, the only thing we do is rest and sleep, but that is not true. Or they say baby sleep when baby sleeps. No, you're doing everything else as well, unless of course you suddenly you have some amazing help around you that would do all your dishes and do all your laundry and everything. There's just so much to it. And I guess for me too, not knowing about the fact that I could have struggle through anxiety and have to go through that while trying to be a mom at the same time. It was just extra difficult. Yes. Well, I was just saying it, it just never stopped being a mom. The moment you become one, that's it. It's like I said, it's not a project. It's not a project that you could just sign off and that's it. No, you're forever a mom. Of course the seasons change. Eventually it does get easier. The sleep changes a lot. My little one, for example, went from sleeping in his own crib, in his own bed for amazingly for years. And then this year I find myself sleeping beside him, or patting his bum to sleep, or dealing with night wakings whereas before I didn't have that. Or now you could never really rest completely while you sleep because you can just have phantom cries. My husband, for example, he snores in such a way that sometimes sounds like a baby crying. How many of you guys are moms? You guys probably can relate to what I'm saying. So that's kind of my story, my story beforehand, by the way. Raise your hand if you are a mom and and how many kids do you have? So I personally, for myself, I actually had no plans of having another one for a very, very long time. Because of that shocking change for me, at least, of having children, having a kid, learning to be selfless. I am not selfless at all. I am very selfish. I love my work and I love myself. I love my sleep. And it is work for me to let go of it. And I love being in control. I love being able to know the schedules. I love being able to do what I want when I want it. But it's just so hard when you have the kid, when the kids come into your life, because I've never, for example, purchased so many fruits in my life. My son loves fruits. I've never brought so many snacks in my life. I've never been a snack person, and I don't know, kids just need snacks, okay? And they can't just have one snack, They need to have multiple options for snacks. Even if they like that one snack today, it could have been different the next day, and it could be an apple today. And then the next day, no, I don't want apples. Just oh my goodness. And especially nowadays, you probably see some memes about this, about how this generation's parenting is asking way too much from us. Not only do we need to be able to listen to our kids and give them a safe space, somehow we also need to avoid physically punishing them, and to be able to convey our emotions, let our emotions out, there's just so much, like, I was just like, it's just incredible how the level of expectation of what kind of like child we're about to create. Whereas truthfully, we all made it out somehow. We're always going to have some wounds. That's what I think, at least. Like, yes, we try to avoid the really, really bad ones, but for the most part, like, we just do our best as a parent, and that's all we could do. Because at the end of the day, like, really, like, kids at some point are really just not going to listen to us anyway. It's the cycle of life. We didn't listen to our parents for a certain point in time, even if we knew that they had our best interest in mind, right? Like, that's just the way we do it. So most of the time I juggle my parenting because my son is in daycare. So somebody was asking that in the question. Here, do you have your son in daycare? Is it Mother's Day out kind of care? Yes, I definitely have daycare. So daycare takes care of my son, from 8:30 to 4:30, and then that's why usually my work hours are between 9 to 4. And then we pick him up from school, hang out with him, play, and have dinner and bedtime and everything. And then he goes to bed around 8:39, and then I go and do some more work, and then I try to wrap up by 11. That's just like my cycle of life. And that's the thing. See, like, things like where just like hanging out with your friends come in. Definitely not every day, but I definitely try to hang out with my friends like once every few weeks at least. That's well, also because most of my friends are moms, so we can't really do it every week. And so that's kind of how I give myself some time. I also give myself a lunch to myself once a week. I love eating by myself. Every now and then I'll post what I'm eating, but it's usually the same kind of stuff. But I love eating by myself. That gives me so much joy, knowing that I don't need to like make sure everybody's okay and fed, like except for myself. Like, I can look at my phone and like browse like mindlessly and eat, or like go for hikes or walks and stuff. Those are like my me time. And lately I've been spending a lot of time on my tapestry because, which is like the loom thing that I've been showing you guys on Instagram, because that one helps me relax, and it's also like part of my nursery. I did a couple of the pieces of that for my son before he was born, and now I'm doing this for my baby girl because I want to do my very best to do, the second kid doesn't get like one album while my first kid gets multiple. This is me trying my best, okay? And also, this is just like the way I express my love. Like, I like to do things for people like that. That's like what makes me feel like myself, So my husband's like, what are you doing? Like, they're not gonna appreciate that. It's okay. Like, that's just the way I express my love and interest, and so that's kind of what I do. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you guys have to all do it. Like, some people like, no, it's okay if it's okay, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. And then so now that baby girl is coming very soon, it could be 2 weeks. The midwife was telling me that it could be in a few weeks time, and I mean, well, it's due mid August, so no matter what, it's coming in August. Unlike Chase, because Chase was like due in June, but he came in July because he was like 42 weeks, but because I'm like, I don't know exactly what kind of delivery I'm having yet, but the kind of like the deadline would be the scheduled C-section, which is around 39 weeks, which is mid August. So my plan is right now is to at least get to that point, and then baby is gonna come. And yeah, so baby's coming at around this time. Since it's coming soon, what am I doing to prepare myself for maternity leave? This time around, my business model is very different. I've got the online courses, I've got the shop, And I also have the wedding invitations. So the wedding invitations have taken a step back quite considerably the past few years, just because like I've been also prioritizing the online courses. So the past 2 years was a lot of like course building for me. Like I spent a lot of that time really working on building the academy so that it's complete, like, or at least it has like the core courses that I wanted to have, which was the beginner, the intermediate, and the 2 masterclass courses. So now that it's completed, it's more like having them like run at different seasons, right? Like, and that's why every now and then you hear me promoting a course. So that one for me is taking a little bit of a pause for the ones that require a lot of back and forth. That's why the premium package, for example, for the creative calligraphy course, the beginner course, is taking a break until January. So I'm giving myself this 3 to 4 months time to take a break and to embrace this season of being a mom a second time around. But this time we have another one. We have my son as well. So that one is taking a pause in that realm. And then some of the courses like the Invitation Design Bootcamp, the Calligraphy Business Kickstarter will take a pause too, because those ones we require a lot of live sessions outside of the already pre-recorded videos. Like I would like to be able to be there to respond to people's questions and things like that. So that one is also taking a little bit of a pause, and that was planned, that it's okay that I take that time. But a good thing is that at least on the online course front, that there's still some parts of it that can continue to go through. So it becomes like a little bit more passive, like the basic course. So I would say if you were planning to do some kind of maternity leave, it would also be good to have something that could continue to run while you are on leave. So this time around, I also did save some money for the next 6 months to cover for myself to be comfortable with financially. And then of course, this time around, there's a little bit less work involved in some of the parts. Like there's some passiveness to the business model. And then of course the shop itself. So the shop is different because it in some way, shape or form, there is like pieces that I can delegate. And that's what my team is doing, is, working on basically answering like the inquiries, fulfilling the orders, getting them posted, getting them shipped out, managing the customer relations and things like that. We do still have product launches throughout, but thankfully it's like stuff that you can plan ahead. So like, it's not so much like, okay, we have a wedding, we need to do it like right now. I can do it at like my free time. So the shop at least is going to run completely by itself without my intervention, but there's still going to be some elements to it that I keep, because like I'm the product creator, sourcer, and developer in there. So it's very different if I can't like just leave that completely. But now, in preparation before that, I had to make sure everything was like streamlined, like everything's documented. Well, the team has been running the shop for 2 years, so it's not like they're new to it. So that thankfully I have people in my team that have had the experience going through, the different seasons of the busyness, different product launches. They know what to do with like the wholesale orders, for example. But the biggest thing that I did this time around that was really like, I think is going to change how we run the business, is having the inventory system. So we just migrated this June to a new system called Finale that helps sync of all of our inventory. The inventory piece was seriously one of the biggest pain points in my life, because in running a shop, because like there's just so many things that are like moving pieces that you just lose or forget about. And that's why it's so good to have something like that. And so for me, that was like one of those elements that helped. Yes, it's expensive to have, but at least I don't have to worry about the inventory during this time, because I'll know exactly how many things are around, and then we can reorder in a timely manner, not like the past 2 years. We're always scrambling, especially around the holidays. So my prayer is hopefully that this inventory system like really helps us out with that, and that we're not like giving customers a terrible experience with like overselling and not having enough inventory, because that's what happened last year to a certain extent, and that's why we had to shut down Etsy. But now this system speaks to all of our different channels that sell the items. And then of course we've got the wedding invitations. So wedding invitations, since I was already stepping back a little bit, I just made sure I took a little bit less for 2020, for the end of 2022. So that started like end of last year, giving people a heads up about that. But then I also still do have some 2023 weddings, but then I wanted to make sure that none of the shipping dates are within this 3-4 months time, because that's what I'm planning to give myself, is at least until the end of the year is a little bit like more of a step back, and then 2023 will be when I try to go back in a little bit more. I'm also really grateful that in my family we do have a little bit of help, like my mother-in-law, for example, is just an amazing person, and she's an amazing help to us. So that's also part of how I prepare for my maternity leave. She's the one. I'm also doing like a little meal prep thing for the first month, so that I don't need to do all the cooking myself. And that way I get all the nutritious food to help like replenish my body. And I'm like, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be on maternity leave before the baby comes, or I don't know, maybe the baby comes early. I have no idea. But the plan is that I'm going to spend some time like cooking and like freezing some stuff, and like that way we have them in the fridge and that it's easy to just heat up to cook, and like versus having to cook things from scratch. That personally helps me a lot too. I think that's one thing I miss though. Like I actually don't mind going to grocery. I don't mind going supermarket, especially if I get to go by myself. If I go with my husband and my son, it takes so long. They always buy more things than we ever need. I'm okay with stocking our pantry, but you know, if you guys are not gonna eat it, then they're just gonna sit there. So. So that's kind of like how I'm preparing for maternity leave this time, with a better understanding of the fact that yes, this is going to be a different season. I don't know what it'll be like. I don't know if I'll have anxiety again. I don't know. My anxiety I would say has gotten into a lot more control now that I have a better understanding of what's happening. But I don't know what it would be like once the baby actually comes. I also don't know how the transition would be like with my son. That actually has been my prayer lately, has been, you know, praying that God will just sustain us through the change that is about to happen. Because yeah, it's just different, you know. And somebody was also asking, do I have a Amazon storefront for pregnancy and newborn nursery must-haves? I don't, but I am working on a little blog post for that, because some of my calligraphy friends are also pregnant right now. Like Calligraphy with Liz, for example. Becca from Happy Ever Crafter. And so I am excited for them. And then also they're like, okay, Carla, like what are like your favorite like things that actually, you know, make sense? Because okay, for me, I'm definitely the type that likes to do the practical stuff, but also have some of the pretty stuff, because that's just like my part of my brand. Like that's just like part of my personality. I like things that look pretty, right? Or else I wouldn't make a brand that is like kind of founded on that too, right? And so that's the plan. I will work on this blog post and then I will share it with you guys once I get around to finishing it. I still have a little list of things to do before I go on mat leave, and so that I've been working on this list for a while. Pretty much the last 3 months has been all about like preparing for mat leave, and that's what I've been doing, like, you know, preparing as many newsletters as I can, because I'm usually handling that. Preparing as much content as I can. I also have somebody that helps me with content and reposting and like doing the multiplying my efforts in content creation. But of course, we still need to plan ahead for that one, just in case I'm like totally out of sorts and can't do it. So like, I am doing my best, whatever I can, to prepare for it, but knowing full well that I could also be at zero. So I mean, like, and so that at 0 point and looking at that mentality and thinking of what can my business continue to survive, like are we going to be financially okay during this time, that personally helps me like not worry so much about the whole piece. And of course, like, no matter what, like, this is a season that is important. At least it's important to me, and that I want to be present for my family. My family needs me at this time, and I need myself as well. So I know that keeping myself busy in the business sometimes is okay, but if it's like going to take over it, then I'm gonna burn out, because I know that especially like the newborn phase sometimes can be really tough. You know, there's just a lot less sleep. But who knows? Maybe I'll have a really good sleeper and a really good eater, and then we'll be sleeping lots. Who knows? You'll never know, you know? But I'm so glad though that this time around, I think like I have this like opportunity to think about like and reflect a little bit, like, and in some ways this is like my redemption story of like going through it again, and like hoping that I am wiser as a mom, knowing all the things that happen when you have a child. Hopefully it'll be a better experience. If not, that's also okay, you know. If there's anything I've learned about being a mom, is that it's really a life of surrender. I think like being such a go-getter, I've always just been like so goal-oriented, and the moment you become a parent, you realize that all of these goals don't really matter so much. Like, all you can do is just be present at that moment and do your best. Like, there's no absolute way that you could like do everything perfectly, because it's not just you that works on it too. There's the kid part as well. Like, that's, I think, like one of the things that I failed to understand or know before I had Chase, was the fact that even no matter how hard I tried, even if I tweak this or like I put up blackout curtains or something, there's no way that I can control how long this baby is gonna sleep. I no matter how much I prepared this kid or like did everything to give my son a good palette of food, that they might still not eat or choose not to eat because they're just their own personality, you know? And so it's just so different, like they're their own being, and our job is to guide them as much as we can. But like I said, the circle of life, unfortunately, is the fact that they're not going to listen to us one day. I don't know about you, but my parents were considered the good ones, you know, but I still resented them, or I still carry, you know, wounds from some parts of our relationship. And there's still times where I absolutely think that Mom, like, you know how it feels. and so, hey Dan, thanks for joining. We are just humans, you know, and the best thing we can do is to pray for them, like to just release that responsibility to God, knowing that He is in control and that He would take care of them, and that we just do our part. And yeah, I know, I wish they popped up with their own manual, because every kid's different too. That's the thing. Like, I wish I could tell you that every kid's the same, or like if you read all of those on Instagram, people have like all these tips and stuff. Dude, it doesn't really work all the time. You know, every kid's different. Not everybody will respond to like gentle parenting. Not everybody will respond to threats. Like, not everybody will respond to rewards. Believe me, like, especially nowadays that Chase can talk back or do all of this stuff. Like, it's just, you just, like, sometimes you just like pick your battles. Like, do you really want to go through this tantrum right now, or do you just want to get it to stop? And that's okay. You know, I think the best thing you could do is to enjoy the process. It's just be in the moment, and you know, and in some ways just like be grateful. And if you do feel like you're failing, or like if you like lost it, that's also okay. It's actually better, because you know, you can't be a perfect parent. Like, your kid doesn't need a perfect parent. In fact, they want to see you fail, and see how you pick yourself up from it, because that's how they'll learn resilience. Like, if anything, the best thing we could do is to model the behavior that we want them to have. And so that's the best thing that we could do as parents. And that's kind of the mentality I'm bringing myself into for this maternity leave. So I'm doing everything I possibly can, you know, writing my newsletters. Hey Jenny, thanks for joining. Preparing so much content, getting my ducks lined up. I have a maternity coverage document, which is like documentation of like things my team will be covering for me. But knowing full well that all of this can, you know, still not all work, and that's okay. This pause is part of the season of our lives, and it's good to have it. And that's kind of just like how I'm approaching it. So I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this little personal session of mine of talking about maternity leaves as a business owner, how I'm doing it this time around. If you have any other questions or follow up or whatever, like, just let me know. I'm usually still on my DMs and things like that, so at least during work hours. Thank you so much for joining in, and I'll see you guys in another live. Bye for now.